I'm JD, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe, please hit like. I'm continuing the work on this old vintage. It's basically a carriage clock, and this is the balance cock for it. And I just looked at it in my microscope, and the jewel is not good. It's crushed. Now, one thing I want to do here, if you look at that jewel setting really carefully, I don't want to ruin that jewel setting. I don't want to ruin the burnishing that's over the jewel. And it's placed into the setting from this side, and the setting is, I think it's part of this whole contraption here, so it's not really a setting, right? It's just part of it. And so what I want to do is see if I can ream out the hole with my jeweling set, like ream out the old jewel, crush it with my jeweling set so I don't destroy the burnishing material on the top. Then I can use my tools to widen that burnishing material to place in a better jewel. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm not sure how well this will work. I was thinking of putting it on my lathe and just spinning the lathe and grinding it out with the lathe, but your typical C1A1 jeweling set here comes with a bunch of reamers here that might help to actually do that activity. So this is what we're going to try to do this morning. So the first thing to do here is to pick a reamer that's the right size that can kind of grind away at this but not destroy the edges of this setting. So I'm going to pick a small reamer, and I'm assuming the reamer is going to work in grinding this out and not cause me other issues, right? So I'm also going to try to ream it from the back end here where the burnishing material is. That way I don't have concern about ruining that material. Look how short I am this morning. So I'm going to start with a small one and work my way up. This is an alternative to punching out the jewel. So if you've got any other advice, let me know. I could also drill it out. So I could also use one of my drills, my drill bits here, and put that in the lathe and put it up on I have a special device that will hold this on the lathe and just simply start drilling this material until it crumbles. But I'm going to try using this first because it's probably the fastest technique to getting to the end. So this is a Seats jeweling set here. So this device here goes right in like this, I believe. It used to anyway. I can put the plunger in first. This is the plunger, and I put the reamer into the plunger, and that of course doesn't work. What the hell am I doing here? The reamer needs to go into the plunger, and for some reason the reamer ain't going in the plunger. Do I need an adapter here or something? What is going on? Because these plungers are perfect, but these ones seem to be small. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. I'm stupid. So within the Seats jeweling set, let me just show you here. When you pull this out here, like that, you notice that there is a device on the bottom to hold the reamers, and it's hidden in here. So I haven't reamed out a jewel in a while. So shout out to Chris Spinner out there in the world of reaming, and shout out to Sonny Morehouse, who's the adjudicator of the Facebook website for watchmaking, for amateur watchmaking. So shout out to you dudes. This is our reamer, and it has a punch out hole on it too in case your reamer gets jammed in there. And you basically put this down and ream. So but the question is, I would like to have a stump too, because the stump will raise this up for me just a bit, and that'll cause this thing to rest properly on here. So let me just grab the appropriate stump. Is that the right stump? The Department of Stumps. So this is the DOS, Department of Stumps. So there's a stump I put in here, and then the reamer goes in here like this, and then goes down through here, and then you use this, you twist it, right? So I still don't know whether this is going to work or not. Is it going to work? That is the question. Is it going to work? If I say it slowly, it probably will. If I say it quickly, it probably won't. So let's put this in here, and I can always stop when I'm freaking out, okay? So you put this down, align that up, and start turning this until I get some action on that jewel. Now the jewel is a ruby, which, oh, there we go, perfect. So that just crunched the shit out of the jewel. And what I'm going to do is get a bigger reamer, because if your smaller reamer is not good enough, your bigger reamer might work. So that reamer is now stuck in there, which means I got to punch it out. So I just have to get a different reamer here and see if I can put that in there. It's got a punch out on it. There we go. That worked. You just need to put something in there to punch it out. And let me check the reamer, and yeah, so there's no situation with the reamer. It looks like it's still in good reaming shape. The jewel didn't destroy my reamer, which is good. It's a little rough, but not too bad. Now I want to get a big reamer here and put the big reamer in, because I would like to actually see if I can ream out a lot more. And then I may just pick at it with it. So that reamer is too big because it's going to ruin my burnishing material. So I want a medium-sized reamer. So it did work, but I think I still will end up having to pick the little pieces of jewel out of this hole. Look at the other side here and see what it looks like. It's not too bad. Yeah, so we're going to go under the microscope here with a needle, and we're going to pick the little pieces of jewel out of that hole. But in general, it cleaned it out, took the jewel out, and it's largely, I'll say largely, left my burnishing material in place, right? I think I screwed it up just a bit with the reamer, but worst case scenario is I make a jewel setting and put it into this hole. That's the other thing I can do, is I can fashion a jewel setting, a complete jewel setting, ream this thing out completely, and then put the jewel setting into the hole with the new jewel. So that's also a possibility. So, which is what I might have to do. You don't know. So now I'm just basically using my stereo microscope, which is a very useful tool, by the way, for watchmaking. And I'm zooming into the hole that I made, and I need to get the material out from the center of this. So, and actually just a needle works just fine for doing that. And after I get the material out, then I'll use a Rodico to clean it up, and then I will submerge the whole darn thing into alcohol to make sure I've got everything. So this is the little pieces of jewel setting are coming out, which they're loose as heck. So it cracked, it shattered into a jillion pieces, so that's good. So I'm able to very easily move this stuff around here. So now that's done. And the other thing is I got to find myself the right jewel. And if you recall from my previous videos, it's 0.19 millimeters. That's the hole size, and I've got to burnish this, open the burnishing up with the tools I have. So we'll do that in a few seconds. All right, so we got the stereo microscope out here, and I've got the, as you can see, this is the material that needs to be opened to accept the new jewel. I've cleaned it up a little tiny bit with Rodico. So we just take the old jewel that I got rid of by just crushing, putting my reamer in there. The reamer did touch the edge of this a bit, but now I've got to open this up ever so slightly with another tool that I use to actually open this up without trying to break it too much. I know it will break a little bit. The good news is that when you look on the other side of this device, this is just one giant piece of metal. So the jewel will rest in here nicely, and it'll fit in here, and I can burnish the material over the top of that jewel, or burnish the material over the top of the new jewel. So this tool here, I've got two different tools that I use for opening up a burnished jewel. This one here I think should work, and this also closes the burnished jewel. This tool I also use to do my lathe work. So I basically use this to close burnishing material, but on a lathe when I'm making a jewel setting. So if I take this bit off here, and I very carefully have polished the crap out of this bit, so it works extremely well. and I've got to pick an opener here that would be the right size. So I used to use a different set than this. So what you do here is you screw this on like this, like that, and when you turn the screw in the back here, screw this here, you turn that clockwise, and if you can look at the head of this, it should open it up, right? And you just turn it a bit, open it, turn it a bit, open it. So that's opening it up. It's actually not opening it up consistently, or equally, but it should open it up equally. But it doesn't matter because you're twisting it anyway. So what you do is, I'm going to switch to the other camera and see if this actually works. All right, I think half the time I'm trying to set stuff up so you can see what I'm doing, but you put this in here like this, and if this fits, then you're good, and if it doesn't fit, you got to pick a smaller one. I think this is too big to fit, obviously, right? So that's not going to fit properly. So I need to pick a smaller reamer to fit. All right, I think this reamer will work. It's a lot smaller, and it fits into the hole here. And then all I need to do is open the reamer up, and I'll show you as I open the reamer up, you'll see it expanding. There we go. That opens up nicely, actually, and I'll be able to just go down on this thing and ream the hole out. So I'll set that up now. Now, to ream the hole out properly, you need to put a little tiny bit of oil on here. I'm not worried about this mat, by the way. It's just a slice of another mat I have. But if I want to be really anal retentive, I'll turn it to the dirty side of the mat here. This is the dirty side, because I'm going to be putting a little oil on here. So you want to put a little oil on the hole or the reamer, and this just helps to make sure it doesn't catch as you're doing this job. And remembering that this is all going to be cleaned up later. So here it is there, or there it is here, or something like that. I just try to get the right look at this whole thing. So the reamer is open now, so I want to close that down. The other thing I can do is clamp this down, and to make sure it's not going to move, but I'll just put it in here, and you don't want to open the reamer up past the hole. So if I stick the reamer up through here, and the reamer is in fact sticking through the hole, that's no good at all. It needs to be opened up just a bit more so it doesn't stick through the hole, like that, and then see if that works. And yeah, that's not bad there, actually. And if I look at the back end of this, right, and hopefully I'm still on camera here, if I look at the back end and push that reamer in like this, is that going through the hole? Hang on a second here. And it is not going through the hole, so that's perfect. Because if it goes through that back hole, then you've defeated the purpose here. You're actually going to widen the back part of that hole too, which is not good. So you want it to be just like that, and then put the reamer down, and then I'm just going to circle once, and then turn the top part just a bit of the reamer. So you just turn that top part, like I said, this part here, just turn that clockwise, and that'll expand the reamer up, and then you'll be able to continue with the reaming. So you do that, turn that around, and see if I can do that like this. Open it up a bit. I'm just trying to make sure it's not going through. No. And then turn that around, open it up a bit, turn that around. Alright, so it's outside now, so I can stick it back in the hole. And again, I think this is the benefit of you folks out there in the world of watchmaking, because it is not easy to do this while you're actually talking and recording at the same time. So I'm trying to get the reamer to the perfect size here so it's fitting and not, there we go, it's stuck and it's not sticking out the back side of the hole. So I can open that up a bit now and then turn that, and I can see it opening up the hole there. And you don't want to open it up, you want to open it up enough to get the part in, and then you can close it in later. So And I think that reamer is inside there, which is nice. And the oil will help. So open that up a bit more. And then turn it. And I think I lost a piece of metal there, which is not good. So that will split the metal a bit, and you don't want that to happen, but it does happen. So, and in that case, I want to pick that piece of metal out of that area here, and that's the burnishing material. I might be able to just push that back in place later. Let me see the reamer size here. I gotta make it a little smaller. That's not bad right there. Now, worst case scenario, like I said, is that I can actually make another jewel setting and use that. But as you can see now, I think that's as far as I want to go. So that's, the hole is opened up now to accept the jewel, and the back end part is still in place. So now I can take the jewel and push that jewel in place, but I need to go hunt for the right jewel that'll fit in there. Yeah. All right, let's go hunting for jewels. And here's a handheld close-up of the reamed out jewel setting. So there it is there. So I should be able to place a new jewel in there and then use my burnisher to burnish the material over the top of that burnishing material. So that's not too bad a job. I got only one crack on the side, but that should be fine. And once it's installed, the jewel is installed, all the pressure of the balance staff is upward. So the jewel is resting along the plate that you see here. So all of the pressure is upward, which should be fine, right? So now I can clean off the back of this plate a little bit with some with this device here, which is a Bergeron 6240 or whatever it's called, 6240, yeah, the Bergeron 6240, and that will help me make sure that there's no other materials in there after I do the cleaning. I'm trying to get this device out here. Oot! There it is there. It's a little bit of a scrub brush, and this can be used, as you can see, it cleans this part up nicely like that, and I don't want to get into the other side here because this establishes the vintage look of the part, right? So just make sure my strokes are kind of in the same direction here. So that's cleaned up nicely, and the back end of this I can also clean up some of the oils and things that are part of the back end of this device from a long time ago. That'll clean that up nicely, and if this will be rinsed off in alcohol, and if I look at the actual parts here, I have the regulator arm here that also could use a little scrub-a-dub-dub. This part needs to go back in the tub. So this will actually help clean up this part as well, and I'll wash that in lighter fluid. I said alcohol earlier, but I really meant lighter fluid. So, and I want to make sure that this part gets cleaned up because I have a cap jewel that I need to find as well. So get rid of all of the gum that's in here from the Sessions clock, the carriage clock rather, that was probably used by Napoleon during the Great French Revolution. So I think this probably was Napoleon's watch, I'm thinking. So stay away from these brass regulator pins here, and just put everything back in the container once you're done. That's what you need to do. I've got one more part I could probably clean up just a little tiny bit with this. Trying to grab it right now. There we go. This here, and that's where the cap jewel goes in, and this looks pretty gummed up as well. So if I clean that up, that's going to none of the gum material is going to change the dimensions that I have here when I screw all this back together again. So cleaning that up is also important. And I got an old piece of watchmaker mat here I'm using. So don't throw away your watchmaking mats once they get dirty, because you're going to need them for doing this kind of work, right? There we go. That's cleaned up nicely. And that hole there needs to be cleaned a little tiny bit. Flip that around. Yeah, and the cap jewel for this, actually, this goes on top like that, and the cap jewel goes in here. So it just sits in there and then sits on top of the jewel setting. So it's that's how all that works. And so I'm going to need to go find the right jewel to go put in this, and I'm going to take these two things here and I'm going to toss them into some lighter fluid, and I'll probably use this big jar here, although that's a bit too big maybe. I'll use a smaller jar. It's got a bit of a bottom, but I need to clean this jar out a bit and rinse that out in lighter fluid. Alright, I'm going to pour a little bit of lighter fluid in here, and I'll use that to rinse these parts off. So it's something that's absolutely needed for watchmaking, and nothing like lighter fluid to make my day. So I'm going to also put a pair of gloves on when I do this. And as you know, about 5 weeks ago, a little over 5 weeks ago, I had my hip completely replaced. So I had total hip replacement surgery, and it went extremely well, and I did all my exercises, and I have physiotherapy today in about 2 hours. And I would recommend surgery for people that don't even have a hip problem. That's how well it went. So it's just amazing. And I think I shared with a few folks out there the size of that spike that goes into your femur. It's like an 8-inch spike that goes into your femur, and there's a ball on the end of that spike, and it's all titanium. And it's got a 30-year warranty, which gets me to 95, because I'm 65 years old right now. So that's plenty of warranty. I don't need any more than that. I'm just cleaning the rest of the stuff off here. And while I got the lighter fluid out here, I may do a little bit of scrub-a-dub-dubbing on the actual platform balance part here too. So I'm just putting these parts down here. I'm not too concerned about the mat I'm putting them on, because like I said, that's one of my old mats here. And this will dry up enough, and then I'll make sure that I've got everything is cleaned up with watchmaker's watch paper. So I'm just going to clean up this part of the watch a bit too, and I've got to take these apart after and check these jewel settings. I think one of them is cracked, or has got cracks in it, so it'll need work. This is a very old platform balance. It's pretty greasy. Just being very careful here around the escapement wheel, and try to get rid of any dirt and grime that's part of this thing. It's full of it. Some of it gives it character though, I find, so that's why I'm not using my other device to clean stuff up. I'm just using alcohol here, because that'll just degrease it. And I'm also staying away from the escapement wheel, because I don't want that to cause problems. Yeah, and I think the lower jewel here will also need work on it. So this is one of 2 platform balances I'm working on, and the second one I'm planning on streaming. So if you're interested in watching me as I work, I'm just going to stream it. And my youngest kid told me to do that. He said, "Hey, Dad, you should do streaming on this. It's pretty cool. People can just log in and watch, and then log out, and then after you can actually see the full streamed video if you want, and that will be an interesting way of doing the work." So there we go. That's good enough for now. Good enough for NOW. So put that down there. Now I just have to allow these parts to dry up a bit, and this to dry up a bit, the alcohol or the lighter fluid. I didn't put a mask on today because I'm not too worried about this particular lighter fluid, because I'm not really doing this a lot today, but I can use a puffer now, and that puffer will absolutely help me to dry this up very quickly. So Let's get that puffer going. Later on, I will use this tool again, and this tool has over here where my finger is, it's got the appropriate fittings to actually burnish that material I just showed you back on once I find that jewel. So the tricky part's going to be hunting for the jewel. When I find the jewel, what I will do is place the jewel right on top of the balance staff. I just bring that over right now. So that jewel will be placed right on top of the balance staff, the balance right here, the upper pivot, to make sure that I've got an absolute fit, because I don't want to assume that my 0.19 millimeter jewel hole or pivot size is accurate. I can do the fit and make sure it's accurate, so I don't have any problems with the future fitting of any of that stuff. So this is almost completely dried up, which is good. And I think we're done now, like that. And then this is, I think, dried up too. Yeah, this wouldn't take very long to dry. So this, and I put that in a container over in the corner. And this here, there'd be some areas in here that are wetter than others, so I'll just dry this up as well. And the idea is all this is going to end up working in the long run. So I'll be taking all this apart after to clean this up properly. So it's not going to stay like that, but the first thing was to get the balance in good condition. And that took quite a while. So to do work on these platform balances is not easy. It's pretty much one of the only things that can go wrong in these carriage clocks is the broken platform balance. And this is what I tend to do some work on for these folks I know who are part of the Ottawa Watch and Clock Collectors Society. So Paul comes over and says, "Hey, I got some work for you to do. Do you want to do it?" And I go, "No." And then he gives it to me anyway. So it's kind of how the relationship is right now. So no means yes. And the platform balance, in case you're not familiar with it, I'm going to bring one out here for you just so you can see what it looks like, and move all these things out of the way for 1 second. And I'll bring this into play here. And if you look at the top right there, you've got a platform balance. I'm going to focus on that. Just live focus, it's called. And there we go. That is the platform balance for a carriage clock. That's it right there. And this is a newer platform balance. And so when you wind the carriage clock, let me open that up for a second and give it a quick wind. You wind that carriage clock up, that platform balance starts moving. And there it is. And it always moves. It's always sitting in the horizontal position, so you don't have to concern yourself about the 5 positions that you typically will set a pocket watch to. So that's the platform balance right there. So now I need to go seats jewel hunting in this, all these jewels I have now. In this situation here, all the jewels on this side I have none of, but I do have all of these jewels, right? So, and I have the jewels that are at the top of the jeweling set too. So, and I've got other jewels. So what I'm hoping for here is to find the exact right diameter of jewel and the exact right size of jewel that will fit in here. So the jewels are marked like 22 110. So that's a 110 radius and a 0.22 jewel. So what I'm looking for is a 0.19 or 0.20, and this is a 100 radius with that. So there's, if I can find a 0.19, which should be a 19, that would be perfect. So let me just look through the selection here. The 12s are over here. I've got 14, 16, 18, 20, 20 might do, 22, 24, 20, whatever. Here I've got 19, 160 right on the bottom there. So this is a 19 160 joules. So I'm going to have a look at what this does for me, okay? Because that might be the right one right there. And I also have cap joules, and this is a CP 160. So that's a cap joule with a diameter of 160 as well. So let me pull that out, and I've got a bunch of these, and this might be good or it might be too small. So we'll see what this looks like and do a trial fit here. Alright, here's my 19160 joules. I think that they may be a little bit small from a diameter perspective, right? So I don't think these will work. Just having a quick look at it. It may be the right size, but I think that they're pretty damn close. So 160 might be actually too big. I thought it would be too small, but it might be too big from that perspective. So maybe a 19150 would be better. And I'm kind of looking at the jewel itself. And that would sit in there like this, but I think that I've burnished the material back. I don't think I can burnish it any further back. So I'm going to have to find a jewel that's a little bit smaller. So a 19160, so maybe a 19150 or something like that. Now if I look at the cap jewel on the other side, and these are a bunch of cap jewels I got, and just tap a few of those out here. Come on, there's one there. And there's the cap jewel, and I'm seeing whether that's rounded or not. It's not a rounded cap jewel, so this might not work, because you'd want it's a much bigger jewel setting that fits as a cap jewel. And yeah, that's probably not going to work, right? Because this would go over the top. Let me think here. Yeah, this is going to be on the top here, like that, and the cap jewel would be sitting on top of this, and you wouldn't want it to sink down too far. So let me look at the back end of this thing here. So it's going to sit inside of here, so it's going to have to be quite the size jewel that sits in there as a cap jewel. So this is not going to work either. So those are two failures so far. So jewel hunting I go, right? And anyway, jewel hunting takes a long time. So when you're working on watches, that's going to take you a long time. So now I've got to resort to the million jewels I've bought over the years and see if I can find something in here by trial and error. So this is what I'm going to do. And it could take quite a while, but it's all part of watchmaking. But you can see I've got boatloads of jewels here, and I've bought these over the years to accommodate watchmaking. So we're going to just dive into this giant selection of jewels and see if I can find one that fits into this beautiful old part. All right, this is very hard to believe, but the very first jewel I picked up fit. Which is just stupid, okay? So I just picked one of the jewels up out of here. The very first jewel I picked up, and I'm looking at it right now, and it looks like it fits. Oh my God. And so I just need to make sure that this jewel fits the balance staff. So this might not fit the balance, but it fits. It gives me a good diameter for a fit, which is great. But does it fit the balance? That's the question. It may be too small. I do not know. It looks like it's actually two jewels in one. Yeah. I think I'm going to have to go back to the hunting, because this looks like it's got two jewels in the thickness of one inside the other. which is crazy, but I've seen this before. So I'm going to have to go back to the hunting. Alright, after much hunting, I think I may have found the right jewel. This seems to have the right side shake. It seems to have the right thickness. It seems to fit inside the setting where the burnishing is, and it seems to be the right jewel. So that's a good thing. So I think my hunting here for the jewel is over. I just simply need to burnish this jewel in place, which is not incredibly tricky, but tricky enough. So I'm going to do that. I may do that after lunch because I think that my wife just came home, and we'll continue with this video later on. But there's the jewel in the setting, and I'm checking the side shake here of the jewel itself in the setting. It's a tiny bit loose, but you want it like that because the burnishing material will grab onto that and go over the top. So I know I wouldn't fit a perfect diameter jewel in there, but that one should do. So that's good. And for the cap, I may have found the right cap jewel for the top as well. It's not a smooth jewel, but I'll try some other ones. But this one here seems to fit inside here, which is nice. It's not beveled. I think it's flat on the ends, but it does go in here, and it will allow me to have this flat, so this can merge with the base of this here, which is nice. So there's the situation right there. So that's it for now. I'll be back in a sec. Hey, I'm back. For you, 1 second. For me, it was a full day. So I'm going to get this burnisher here, this tool right here, I think is the right size, but I'll pull this out and have a look at it compared to, it's got to burnish the material over the jewel. So I've got this, and I've got this device here, and it's got the opener that I had earlier on there already. So I just have to unscrew the opener and put the opener where the burnisher was, and then screw the burnisher back on right here, Jerry. So just screw that back on like this. So easy to do, right? Wrong. Why is this thing not screwing on? Oh, okay, because I got this kind of screwed up too much. It's got to be back before I can screw this on successfully. There we go. And I just tighten this here, and then this will open the end of the burnisher. So this opens it up, and like that, if you can see that, right? So what you do is you start off with it bigger, and then as you burnish the material over the part, you reduce the size as you do that. So I'm going to attempt to do this, but I'm working with my microscopic Andonstar, ANDONSTAR camera here. As I said before, I chose from a gajillion jewels that I've got one that should work. If this fails miserably, the plan B for this is actually to punch this whole thing out and make a jewel setting, kind of put that in as a jewel setting. So I'm just getting deep and down and dirty on this thing here to see if I've got it opened enough. Got to open it enough so that it will catch the edge like that, and then you're turning this material like this. So I just have to be very careful doing this to make sure it's getting all of the material. And I'm doing it under camera here, which is never good. That turned it in just a little bit. Try to get some that's on the top here. Like that. And then I just take this and just turn the thing in the back here counterclockwise a tad, and this will reduce it in size, and then go back in like this, and make sure I don't turn it down too much of a tad. Yeah, it seems to be working. There's a piece of loose metal from before that's on the edge here that I gotta make sure that goes in. I may use a screwdriver to kind of push that in too. Yeah, okay, so that's, don't go out too far, buddy. So I'm going out past that rim, which is not good. And I gotta go inside of the rim, like this. Just rotate that. Like that. Okay, I think that worked well. And I'm going to reduce it in size again, just by turning that just slightly. And go back in. I wouldn't say this is easy to do. I'd say this is precision work that you can screw up pretty easily, so you've got to be super careful doing it. That outer material here, I want to make sure that that is pressing inward. So I'm going to take a small screwdriver here. Not sure if this is big enough or not. But just put that in there and then press downward. I have to probably look under a stereo microscope again, not the one you're looking at now, but a different one, just to make sure I've got enough material over the top of this. Because plan B, like I said, would be to take a piece of brass and ream this whole thing out and set in a piece of brass. So I'm going to look under my stereo microscope to see what this looks like, and be right back. And while you're waiting, you can tell me what this is. This is an early 1800s barometer. I'm going to do a video on this at some point in time. So here's the result of the burnishing. This is a live video. I just put my toothpick in here. Still need to peg out that hole, so it burnished it over. The burnishing tool worked okay, I'll say. It was good for the initial burnishing of this thing, but I actually went all along the edges with a screwdriver, and what I did was I anchored the screwdriver in the trench, and then I twisted it inward, and I kept going all the way around until the jewel was burnished in. So that should hold nicely. I'm thinking of doing one more thing, and you can give me your comment back. I was thinking of actually plugging the hole of the jewel and maybe the dipping part of that jewel, and then putting liquid shellac on the whole thing, just to make sure it stays in place, and then allowing it to harden, because the liquid shellac would harden very nicely, and that would absolutely keep that jewel in place without a problem. And if I put a piece of pegwood or something in that hole and plug that up, that would prevent the shellac from getting into the jewel area. The other option, and I'd want to do that, right, but The other option is to just put a piece of Rodico in that hole and then pour the liquid shellac in. So just create a ball and then push the Rodico in there and then put the liquid shellac around that. And that's just to contain the burnishing material, because the burnishing material is very thin. So this is one method that might work, and it's something that is, I think, of no harm at all, because the balanced staff wouldn't be near any of the resulting material that would hold that burnishing material in place. So you can give me your advice on that or not, but I'm thinking I want to do that just to give it some extra strength so it'll last a long time. And then all I need to do is reassemble all the parts, maybe tomorrow after I've let that liquid shellac dry and overnight, and then that would be a final job. So that would be a new technique for further securing the jewel in place above and beyond the burnishing material. And none of that is visible in the watch when it's running, because this part of that watch is turned the other way. It's upside down. So that's that. And I do have a jewel here that I found for the cap jewel of this. And here's the jewel I found for the cap jewel. And I believe it's the width or the depth is perfect. So it's going to be perfectly flat in there. And that'll work really well. And this is another one that I might actually put some liquid shellac on, and just to make sure this stays in place, because it's kind of floating right now. And if I were to flip this over, if I put a little bit of Rodico on here right now and then flip it over, let me do that, and you can see what it looks like from the other side. Rodico is man and woman's best friend, by the way, in case you're curious. I'm just going to press a little Rodico on the top of that like that, and then flip the jewel over, and this is what the jewel looks like from the other side. So that's not too bad. That looks pretty good. It doesn't stick up through, but that's not a problem, because normally it'd be a rounded jewel in there. And I think the surface of it is fine for being a cap jewel. So, but again, I think the liquid shellac, see, that's coming out now. So now it's stuck to my Rodico. See, there's the jewel stuck to the Rodico. Oh my God. But I think the liquid shellac on the other jewel would be really good. I think that would do a great service to actually keeping that jewel in place, even though the burnishing is pretty darn good right now. I never trust burnished material. So anyway, we're going to see if I think I might do that as an experiment. All right, I'm going to actually do Operation Shellac. So maybe this is stupid, maybe it isn't, but I need to get the smallest ball of Rodico I can possibly find or make, and put that over that jewel. I may need 2 tweezers for this job. I don't think 1 tweezer will suffice. So even if I roll this shellac into a ball and I put it over the top here, you can see how big that ball is right now. So it has to be kind of almost half that size. And I just have to grab that shellac or the Rodico and kind of rip it in two, and then the leftover is the ball, and then roll that. See if I can do this. Not sure if this is the right size. This is a lot better, I think. And I'm going to use my screwdriver to just roll that into the jewel setting here, and just kind of press it in on the edges here. Now what I want the shellac for is strength. I want that to provide me some strength along the edges of this setting. If I do that, I think I've got the jewel and, more importantly, the hole covered. So that's that there. And you probably wouldn't believe how small this is. So if I just roll my finger in here, you can kind of see there's my finger, the edge of my finger. So there's the end of a pair of tweezers that are very small. So it's extremely small. Now I've got my bottle of shellac, and I've got an eyedropper. So I'm going to take my shellac here. This could be the dumbest thing I've ever done in watchmaking, but the second dumbest is actually not trying something like this. And this is just to shore up the, to make sure that the, what I've got as the burnishing material over that jewel is in fact solid. And the shellac, if I can apply the shellac to the edges, this will do the job. So I'm just going to go in here. I've got my bottle of shellac. It's a very small bottle of shellac. Let me just show you what I've got here. Alright, there's my very small bottle of shellac there that I'm going to use my oiler to dip into, and then see if I can put that along the rim of the edge of that thing. Now this is way more controllable under my stereo microscope, but I wanted to just show you guys how this could be done. So we're just going to try it right here, right now. Isn't that a song here? I'm not too concerned about it dripping over the edge part, so that's not a concern at all. But I'd rather it go on nicely and in good quantity. So I'm going to just go over the edge part here instead. Try to keep away from that screw hole, because that's likely going to cause me some pain. And just dip that down into where the crevice is here. Yeah, it's not too bad there. And I'm going to go to the other side here and work on that. I'm doing this under the microscope as well, so you can. So I have a little bit of control here, but not a lot. And I'm going to just dive into the liquid shellac again with my oiler. Grab a bit, and then go in on the edge here. Like that. That'll settle down actually, because the viscosity is good. So that's kind of all I wanted to do right there. I think I got 90% of it. And gravity itself will get that little piece to go down nicely, and then that'll cover, that covers the that area. These parts here don't matter because they're not touching anything with the watch. I'll just take that off anyway though. So there we go. So now I've got the jewel covered with the Rodico. The liquid shellac is along the edges, and when this dries up tomorrow, all I'll do is I'll take my tweezers here like this, and then grab the center out, just pull that straight out, and that liquid shellac should hold the burnishing material in place. So that's my theory, and I'm sticking with it. So that's good. That'll work. I think that'll work fine. So that's part one. Now the other good thing about liquid shellac is as it dries up, it still has the ability to be able to mold it a bit before it's completely dry. So you can take a screwdriver like this and just further push it down into the trench here. And that'll again keep the burnishing around the jewel, which is nice. There, I also shellacked this jewel in place here, and that'll clean up nicely after the fact. But this jewel, I just placed shellac right into the hole where the setting is, and then pushed the jewel in with the shellac, and there it is at an angle here. Just show this a bit of an angle and then maybe focus it here. There it is there, and now that'll clean up nicely later on because that is kind of a beveled hole, and the shellac will hold that in place, and I'll be able to chisel away the extra shellac before I screw this on the top of the plate. So enough shellacking for today.